enjoy yourself. 2 adults. You all right? Yeah. Oh, good. Enjoy yourselves. Family. Just a lucky door prize ticket in the front there, that's the blue one, and drop it into the box up there. Right. Also, there's a modelling clinic upstairs for any hints you might need on modelling. And on your way out, whatever you consider to be best layout, just fill the white one in and pop it into the box on that table there. Okay? Enjoy yourselves. Layout, just fill in the white form and drop it into the box on that table over there. Okay? Great, enjoy yourself. Sir? 2 adults. 2 adults. Right, 650.
On the stage, you can see the results of the photographic and modelling competition, while upstairs, you can try your hand at modelling under the watchful eye of Dr. Warren, who came of internal. And the ticket again.
We didn't wait 5 seconds.
Oh, right. Okay.
You can delay.
The 1986 Model Railway exhibition at the Police Boys Club, and we're at the modelling clinic put on by the narrow gauge and short line modellers, and this clinic was put on to show the general public the fine work that's been done by several of our members. Let's go over and have a look at Mr. Jeff McGill, who's at the moment demonstrating the construction of fine-scale kits. Jeffrey's been working on this particular kit, which is a model of a Denver and Rio Grande Western passenger car. The kit comes from America and made of sugar pine timber and white metal pieces, detail parts. Now we'll just move on along down here to Mr. Charles Aglin, who's a scratch builder in brass locomotives and rolling stock of New South Wales prototype. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Charles Aglin, who might like to add a few comments about what he's actually doing at the clinic here today.
What we are doing here is to show a representation of brass modelling, scratch brass modelling of the New South Wales prototype, particularly the 70s era. We have here an OCY container being constructed at the moment. It's all brass, except for the bogies on it. We have plans to work from these from the railways, plus there's field work done by way of photographs and other means. Over here we have under construction a 442 class locomotive, all of brass construction using commercial mechanism. Sometimes it's better to follow from the model in preference using the plan sometimes. Over here we have the aluminium bodied coal hopper. Fair bit of work involved in them. Most of the parts are all scratch built, except for the ladders and little pieces. But generally it's a very detailed work. It involves a lot of patience, filing, soldering, and a lot of techniques. We have also Victorian vehicles under construction with brass. Again, the same principle are used. All the angles are all handmade, as are the doors. The underbody is all fabricated by hand. The vehicle, when constructed, should weigh around about 4 to 5 ounces, which gives it a good weight on the track. The exception, again, this will be a foreigner, in other words, it's a out-of-stater, so I'll have to learn the techniques of putting the decals on properly for that one.
Charlie, now we've got down a little bit further, Mick Reckenberg, who's here at the clinic to demonstrate just how easy model repairs are for the homeowner, and Mick might like to tell us exactly what he's about.
Well, actually, for the new coming modeller, the whole thing looks very complicated, but it isn't really complicated. The main essence with maintenance on locomotives is cleanliness. Don't over oil. As long as you don't have anything binding and your track's clean and your pickups are clean, you'll have a good running loco. Don't be frightened to do your own. It's very simple. If you want to learn, just come along and ask anyone in the clinic for any department you've already seen, and they'll tell you everything you need to know about model railroading. If we don't know, we'll bluff our way through.
Thanks, Mick. This particular layout is currently being constructed by Jeff McGill and myself. It's specifically being built as an exhibition layout. It's roughly modelled on Denver and Rio Grande Western narrow gauge prototype, and most of the buildings that are displayed are under construction, as well as the scenery and the benchwork. We'd just like to go around. We'll have a little bit of a look around the other side here. This particular yard under construction is a dual gauge yard, standard gauge and 3-foot narrow gauge. The turntable as yet hasn't been constructed. Models have been placed around to give a typical view of what it will possibly look like when it's finished. Most of the buildings are of scratch-built construction, with some kit-bashed proprietary lines. All the locomotives are brass construction, and most of the rolling stock is also of a kit-type nature. We'd just like to move on a little bit now down the track a little. Down here we've included some scenery, just to give a general idea of what the overall appearance will look like. And this section was all built using latex rubber moulds, casting plaster in the rubber mould to get a faithful reproduction of the rock. All the pine trees are all handmade. The viaduct in the picture is constructed from plaster and hand carved. All the dirt on the scenery has actually been crushed and matched with the rock colour. The water in the lake at the bottom is actually a polyester resin which is poured in layers to build up the required depth. And the overall effect is in this particular scene is for an American logging scene. The yard we're looking at the moment is a narrow gauge yard, and once again the locomotives all being of brass construction, two of which you just saw, which as yet have not been painted. The engine shed is scratch-built construction. All the shingles on the roof are being individually cut and placed on one at a time. We'd just like to move on a little bit now around to one of the features of the layout, we believe to be the Grand Canyon, which is in its raw state of construction, with only the bridges standing at the moment, which have all been scratch built. We believe the floor to ceiling scenery is spectacular as far as exhibitions go. Get me out of this.
It was an amalgamation of names from Dan. The name is an amalgamation of Wolgan, being the valley where Nunes are situated, and Portland, which is the first station from Wallerawang on the Mudgee Ranch line. The layout baseboard is built from 1/2-inch chipboard on 3x1 risers. The scenery is done using a polystyrofoam base covered with a commercial product known as tuft. The trees are your usual commercial brands, lichen, also some trees made from a dried wildflower known as Morrison. The scenery at the end here tries to typify the rugged mountain scenery to be found on the Mudgee branch line, particularly out round Capity, and also that leading down into the Walgan Valley between Newnes Junction and Newnes. The station at the front is not representative of the actual station, but was to try and put a small station into a small layout. The township basically follows the pattern and style of the shop still to be found to this day in the township of Wallerawang, which is the main line terminus station of the Mudgee branch line. In the far corner we have an old abandoned quarry which is filled up with grass and rubble over the years. In the far corner we still have the signs of some of the old mine openings which were known as adits. Most of the locomotives and rolling stock on the layout are typical of those to be found in this general area, and the era that we're modelling is around about the early 60s, which gives us the ability to run not only steam but the occasional diesel as well. In finishing off, I hope you've enjoyed seeing this layout. It's only a small one, but it shows what can be done in a small space. Thank you.
Hello from the 1986 Model Railway exhibition at the Police Boys Club in Newcastle. My name is Bruce Harris. I'm the Secretary of the Rail Motor Society. We have a depot at Patterson. As you can see from our display here, we have a photographic display of the Society's workings up to date since we were informed in 1984. We also have a tape slideshow of the proceedings of the Societies and rail motors in service. And also you can see to my left here Brian Hicks, who is the Vice President of the Society. Our Society aims are to have 4 CPHs in service, followed by a 402 rail motor. To this point I must emphasise that 402 is to go back to the SRA on lease for 6 months, which it will be trialling radios around the state. The SRA have decided to lease it from us and do a major overhaul on it. They are to put in a temporary turnout to take it out in the next several weeks. When the CPHs do finally come out, they'll be in the pre-war colours of green and cream. And we intend to run tours. But I think that's about all.
Hello, I'm from Sydney. I model Japanese National Railways. Layout's called Cardo Mix. It's taken me 18 months to build, and I've still got extension plans in the tubes. The layout's not really modelled on any particular place in Japan. It's got a mainline station with a country branch, a small freight yard, and an industrial plant in the back scenes. The city has your famous McDonald's, Omega House, where they make the Japanese famous Omega watches, and a burning house in a tomato soup factory. Don't tell me how the fire started. You can see there's small farms that have been slowly engulfed by the big cities in Japan. In Japan there's only 15% of flat land for people to live, so everything's all cramped up. The layout was constructed by myself. My father helped me build the baseboard, and I'm very interested in learning many things about Japan. You can also see in the freight yard the Toyota company train delivering new Toyota crowns to the Toyota factory in Tokyo. And the steam loco you see going around is a Japanese national Pacific loco, which has been preserved and is run on special occasions, just like our Rail Transport Museum here in Sydney. The funny stack on the top of the loco is for when the train goes into underground stations. It lines up with a vent so all the smoke won't be clogged up in the underground station, which takes the smoke out to the outside. We hope that anyone who comes to this exhibition thoroughly enjoys the layout.
I'm Ross Ferguson from the Great Northern Railway Workshops on the Central Coast. And this is our layout of which we call Salmon Bay. Salmon Bay was in Seattle, where the Great Northern Railway ran to. The layout runs from Skycommish Yard in the rear, which is in the Cascade Mountains, through down into Salmon Bay. The original part of the layout, the front, was originally taken from the 101 track plan book, and this is number 8, which has been extensively enlarged. The layout at this stage is 32 feet by 10, has 260 feet of of main line and 160 feet of other track. There are 48 points that run the system, and the system is run by 01 controllers. Which is now on camera, is a C4 shunter, and they are doing shunting work in the yard at the moment. The scenery is latex plaster castings and coloured with water-based paints.
I'm Charles Watts. This layout has been built using brass wire for the rail and matchsticks for the sleepers. All cut down to size, of course. I built it for my own use mainly, but I put it in with Vic Barnes's layout. It's not finished yet. I had endeavoured to get it finished, but there's quite a fair bit to do on it. A few problems came about with the roadway, getting that to work. Pulled along by a little chain in the roadway, and that's the chain turn is moved by, it's attached to a motor. It's housed halfway along the road, about centre way, so it pulls evenly on both sides. It's getting a lot of customers. We've had a very good turnout for this exhibition. We haven't had a moment to rest. We're on the go all the time.
I'm John Bell. We're a member of the Scale Model Railways Club. We've been modelling this layout based on the South Maitland Railways for the last 15 months. The layout was designed to try and show some of the historical parts of the now defunct railway. Well, not quite defunct, it's running diesel, but only one line. We're using this design, which was created after a lot of thought, to create distance to give us 2 operating full sides, station on either side. The baseboards have been built from pine board. Track underlay is kainite. We have designed this so that we have two operators, one at either end. At the moment we have it operating from Weston, Jeff Lane, and at the other end at Caledonia, Jock Dewar. Here we are at Weston. Weston is was one of the major coal loading areas through Hepburn Colliery. The goods siding, where a lot of the general merchandise was unloaded. Weston Station, which was the station building is based on some of the old New South Wales stations. It's the overbridge, which is still about the only building or structure existing on that in this part of the railway. The water tower is still in existence, but apart from that there are very few items left of the old area around Weston. The sidings are no longer used, they're overgrown, but still they use the line, as I said, with one particular track using diesel power these days. The coal used to be carried here with small little hoppers, non-air hoppers, similar to LCHs used on the New South Wales lines. They have long gone from the scene. Layout is a variety of materials. Rockwork is made from plaster moulds. By using the pieces of coal or rock with a rubber mould, then pouring plaster so that you try and get the effect that we're wanting for realism. We've tried to make formations which were very close to what exists up now in the Denman cutting, particularly where we are now situated. The areas surrounding Denman cutting and the area of Swamp Creek have all been modelled using materials commercially available and extra materials like dried flowers cut up to various sizes to give the impression of growing weeds, overgrowth, undergrowth, and whatever else. This gives that impression of typical South Maitland and New South Wales country areas. Some of the commercial materials available are woodland scenics, Oz flock, which is dyed sawdust, and various weed formations, as I've said before. It's been built to try to be as authentic as possible from the area, the only difference being that we have modelled it on a slight curve, whereas in reality it's a fairly straight bridge. We have tried to create an undergrowth which is very prevalent around Swamp Creek, a very shallow type muddy area with trees and scrub, and this has all been done and carried out using similar scenics to the other parts of the layout. Trees are a variety of materials, some again dried flowers and some metal bases that have been purchased and then using various materials to give an overall tree dense effect. The particular area that we're looking at also has existing a lot of dead trees and people that we try and put in to make the human interest a little bit, make it more interesting. Rock formations again are tried to be modelled as close as possible because we have compressed a lot into a very small area. Here looking over the fence, one about to climb, trying to see the 10 class which is heading back towards East Streeter with a load of coal. Of course these trains were much longer in reality, and also we do try and create some reasonable sized trains to keep the authenticity. New South Wales originality, but was used on the South Maitland Railways many years ago, again for various types of work, some passenger work, some shunting duties, and we've tried to recreate some of the old workings that were carried on around the 40s and 50s. There are many other styles of locos operating on the layout. some New South Wales and also many of the 10 class and the English rod as they were known. So that's a very brief summary of what we've tried to do with our layout, the South Maitland Railways, trying to recreate something which does not exist in its, this form now. But much more still to be done, of course, and we are very conscious of trying to build and create as much of the building area that we can. Operating coal loaders we hope to do around the Caledonian area, and of course much more detailed buildings which are no longer around, but we find a lot of pleasure in what we're doing, creating something of an historical interest for all those interested in railways. So I appreciate the chance here to be able to document this and pass some of perhaps our hints on to others.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dale Hogan. I'm a member of the Newcastle Engage Model Railway Club. The layout you see here is our club layout. It was only just been finished, and it is based on nothing, on nowhere in particular. The name we have selected for it is Newcastle Junction, which is a compromise or play of words on the letters of the club. Most of the layout, most of the rolling stock on the layout will be based on New South Wales, but at this exhibition at the moment we have run both American and English prototypes. As you can see in the front here now, we have mainly New South Wales, and but some of this stuff has been scratch built, whereas others have been converted from other things. The XPT here, the power cars were scratch built, and the passenger cars are repainted American passenger cars. The 48s are brass, and they are Australian design and that, and they do go well, and weathered. As you can see, for their size, they do run very, very smoothly. As I said earlier, the layout has just been finished. The layout actually took us about 3 months to build, and was built in spare time on weekends and nights and weeknights. And it's about tracks and station buildings and etc., other things like that is concerned. But a lot of the time was their own time, and well, it's just a lot of effort has been put into the building of it by the club members. Mr. Bryson Edge, the man here, gentleman here, he designed and built the control panel that you can see there, and it has worked very well. Admittedly, there were a few little bugs when we first started it, but it was mainly the operator's fault, getting used to the system. Yes, and that's about all I can tell you in the time I have available here, but I just hope that anyone that does see this layout has enjoyed it, and just thanks a lot for your participating in the exhibition. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Brown from the Model Workshops Group. We've been in existence for something like... Sorry, cut it a minute. Been in existence as... Hang on. I'm Alan Brown from the Model Workshops Group in Sydney. We've been in existence for something like 15 or 16 years, and we've designed and built Menangle. Menangle's been around for 14 of those years. Basically unchanged as you see it now. It's designed and built on pine board. The track is Shinohara throughout. Scenery is the conventional zip texturing method, although lately we've gone into the Woodland Scenics range, which we find exceptionally good. For those who don't know Menangle, it's somewhere in the vicinity of 74 kilometres south of Sydney on the main southern line. We try to concentrate on a particular period towards the late steam, early diesel, but as can be seen here, we're virtually running anything for the purpose of this exhibition. Class. It's a Lima body, conventional Lima body, which has been fitted to a Hobbytown heavy-duty mechanism. Gives it exceptionally good pulling power and reliability. Most of the locomotives on the layout are brass, brought through the commercial chains, painted and weathered and to suit the situation. Rolling stock is largely proprietary from Australian produced kits. The passenger stock, in particular the 72-foot passenger variety, is the standard Lima cars, and they've been heavily altered and modified to suit and represent particular different types of cars. Exhibited up here, and it by no means will certainly be the last. It's been an exceptionally good exhibition, and we have thoroughly enjoyed it, every minute of it.
Good day, train lovers. What you see here is actually my own layout. I had quite a bit of help from Stuart Wrightson and from Ivan Blackman. And what you see here, the layout is about 26 foot long by 6, and it's scenic. It's an American layout. It represents the western part of the United States, where the Union Pacific, Santa Fe and Southern Pacific ran over the Rocky Mountains. The train you see coming past now is the city of San Francisco, which ran from San Francisco or Los Angeles to Chicago over the Great Rocky Mountains. The Santa Fe, it mostly ran in the south, and you can see one of the freights going past there. And I enjoy model railroading the same as my friends do here, and it's a great game, and that's about all I can say about it. The layout is constructed on pine board tables, and it's especially made for the enjoyment actually of the public. It's not directly a model-less layout, but I liked to show as many trains as I can running and also standing there so the public can enjoy our model railroading. So that's just about it, and I would wind up with saying, like, I hope everybody enjoyed what I have here, and everybody enjoyed the show this year, 1986 Model Railway Show in Newcastle. Thank you very much for coming.
The layout of Mittagong was built by the Berrimah District Model Railway Club. It's about 2 years of construction have gone into it so far. The layout itself is based on the town of Mittagong, which is at the beginning of the Southern Highlands on the main southern line between Sydney and Melbourne. The layout is fairly robust in construction. It's made of chipboard with good solid foundations for moving. The line is Pico code 100. Signals are non-operating, they're ratio. The buildings, which are based on buildings in the area, are all scratch built except for one house and the shop. All the buildings, they're made from cardboard, styrene, various materials, corrugated card. They're made from photographs, scaled as near as we could get. The scenery itself is made of plaster over foam in the conventional manner. For the grass we used underfelt, slightly coloured. Trees are made from various materials. Some is a local tea tree. Underfelt is used on the forest type effect near the tunnel. We used ground foam, suitably coloured, to give the leaves. Vehicles and people are commercially available. Prize of figures, and the vehicles come from various manufacturers, Viking, other manufacturers like that. The history of the actual prototype, it was opened in 1867. At one stage it was the terminus of the Great Southern Line from Sydney. It was the first refreshment rooms in New South Wales, opening in 1870. It was eventually closed in 1891 when it was transferred to Moss Vale. It's quite an important station. It's at the southern end of what's known as the Loop Line, which was the old main line from Picton. Once the line was duplicated between 1910 and 1920, it became the terminus for a passenger that operated from Picton up the Loop Line through the Loop Line communities, Tarmore, Thirlmere, Colo Vale, and that's the main reason for the station layout having a dock and a crossover. It also has fueling facilities for the tank engines that operated up the line. This is the first major public exhibition we've had for Mittagong. We've enjoyed all the comments we've got from people. It spurs us on to bigger and better things, improvements that can be made. We've enjoyed coming to Newcastle. It was quite a long hop, but hopefully we'll come back again in the future.
We're the Coalfields Model Railway Club. We have our club rooms. We have our club rooms at the Richmond Main Colliery, the old colliery that's being restored near Curry. Now this layout, we've made it to represent a typical English scene. We've got the main line on a different level to the branch line. The branch line has the fiddle yard around the back and does not at any time meet up with the main line. We've got the dock scene and a typical branch line station. The main line is a double main line with a complete circuit that comes around the back, and we have passing loops at the back of the layout. Now the layout is constructed with chipboard base bed, and it has open frame construction with 3-ply formers covered with bird wire, and then plaster soaked cloth with the final coat of plaster being applied with hand and brush. Now the layout is very new. In fact, it was finally completed with point motors being installed at the exhibition, burning quite a bit of midnight oil, and we're quite pleased with the way it's been going this weekend. We have run it before, but only twice in its entirety. It's been run before, and we've only just been able to, we only just managed to get it fitted into our club room diagonally. There's been quite a bit of work going. The trees are all woodland scenic trees, and there's over 60 trees on the layout. We've got a fox hunt with the riders, and one rider of course has lost his horse unfortunately, and another has decided not to go and is staying at the farmer's cottage and helping himself to another mug of ale. As yet we have not got a fox, but that's all right, we will bluff the layout. So there's still quite a bit to be done with the final scenery. The dock scene isn't complete, but we have a good time, and well, that's just about it.
This is the LGB layout. It's owned by the Everett family. We live in Hornsby Heights. This layout is basically an introduction to the wonderful world of LGB, in which it is designed to go into the garden. And this is one of the reasons why we have the layout on the floor, is to give an idea of exactly the ideal place for LGB, and we also have it on the floor so as the younger people of our training fraternity can appreciate it. We find that having it down here, the parents have to come down to the children's level instead of the children having to go up to the parents' level. This layout just gives you an idea of the versatility of the LGB range, but it is ideally suited for the garden. The bridge you see in the middle of the layout is hand built, and it comes from a garden layout. It comes from a garden layout from a friend, Holger Engel, at Penrith. All the buildings are weatherproof. They are all totally commercial. They are Polar brand. Some of the animals are Britain brand, and some of the cars, the cars are 1 to 25 scale, and they are various sizes. We appreciate being invited to this exhibition. We have thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, and we hope that people, or the younger generation and other training people, appreciate what this wonderful scale it is. Although it's a bit bigger than what people are used to, we hope that people enjoy our layout and they appreciate our trains. Thank you.
Well, I'm Michael Bindley, the owner of Arglen. Richard Davis isn't here at the moment, so I'll do it for him. The layout's HO scale. It took 12 months to build. The board is pine board, Pico track. The different scenery. The mountains are of plaster, chicken wire and foam. All the buildings have been either scratch built or put together through kit forms. The station's been scratch built. The signals are of ratio. that you see running is of brass. They were used over the mountains not for very many years because of the tunnel. They weren't able to get through because they were too big, so the different union put a ban on them and decided not to run them up there, so very rarely ever saw them running up there. There's only 4 of us in the group at the moment, just of different railway workers sort of thing. If anybody's ever interested, feel free to ask any questions or etc. on the area, and hope you have enjoyed the exhibition. I feel that it has been very well done, well presented, and it's been very good. Thanks.
This layout is named Crafton. The baseboards are made out of 2x1 pine dress material, and the top is made out of 5/8 chipboard. It's made in 6'6" lengths, and the width is 3'6" wide. It stands on 2x1 legs. The layout actually is based on the Grafton station, using the track plan, but it is a mirror image. The loco depot is completely fictitious, but using components from different parts of the state, such as the coal stage is from Grafton loco depot. The goods shed is based on the one at Bathurst, and the Sand Tower is sort of seen in Casino and many other depots like that. The whole idea of the layout is that the trains come in through on the down tracks and remarshalled for a fictitious grade, which is north of Grafton. Therefore, the trains are either double-headed or banked in the rear, or tonnage reduced to go over these grades. And on the up trains, they come into the yard, past the signal box, set back into the up yard. Tonnage is increased or locomotives reduced, and then headed south. All the signals work are scratch built out of brass, and are interlocked into the points, which are driven by electric motors. The reason the layout is called Crafton is because it is a near enough replica of Grafton. It's not exactly right, so therefore we call it Crafton. So we can get away with using locomotives and train types which never actually ran through Grafton. But, so therefore we can use 57s, Garretts, 38s and things which never saw use in Grafton, which gives us more leeway with train operations and makes it more interesting. The whole setup here is sort of is a compacted model of Grafton, because of the length restrictions. We've had to put the yards on a curve, whereas in Grafton they're on the straight, and we've had to do a bit of compressive modelling like that. trains to go berserk here.
Oh, we've missed it. They snuck it in, did they? Yes. You weren't going. That's true.
Keep up the traffic runner, right?
Don't get in the photo.
No, sure it's going to be. Russell just making a video here. Like a stuck word, I'm supposed to do a commentary, and like a stuck word, I only scored.
I'm Jeff Horn. This is a layout Thornhill. It's a freelance engage layout. Doesn't represent anywhere in particular, although all of the rolling stock on it is New South Wales. Modelling construction, open frame, using white polystyrene to give the effect of hills, and then it's coated with plaster, the rock moulds, as can be seen down here near the coal stage. We've tried to simulate a coal mine with the trucks going up and dumping into a bin over the top. At a later stage this will be operating, not actually loading coal, but at least it'll be able to back carriages in, drop them and do them prototypically. There's mine, some of it's built by Kyle Webb in Sydney. He's only just is showing a lot of promise for a new modeller. As you go along the layout, you come into the small terminus station. There's a Debset little 2-car diesel is supposed to come from a fictitious town and then pick up deposit passengers where they can pick up through a passenger train to the big city. General goods usually runs through the town all the time. About 5 seconds out before the tunnel, right now. These are just small butterfly hoppers that were built to represent the butterfly hoppers, coal hoppers from the South Maitland coalfields. Even though the loco on the front shouldn't really be pulling these. Should have either been a 48 diesel, which was about the only diesel that ever pulled them. The thing about Engage is the fact that you can get so much more into a given space. Makes it very, very good for the small home. Just push the train. There's no age limit to how young you can start either. This little fella's only 7 and he doesn't have any trouble using them. All in all, an enjoyable hobby.
Welcome to Franklin County Railroad. My name is Jerry Hopkins. I built the layout. It's in HON 2.5, which HO scale 2'6" gauge and is built to represent the 2-foot gauge railways of the state of Maine, New England in North America. The railroads dated around 1940, the start of the war for the Americans. Although most of the 2-footers died out in 1936-37, they were resurrected at the beginning of the war to help get the hardwoods from the area in the Rangeley Lakes down to the coast and to open up the recreation areas of the lakes themselves. The Franklin County Railroad is the area in which all the 2-footers existed. The Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes, the Bridgeton and Saco River, the Bridgeton and Harrison, the Kennebec Central, and the Franklin and Megantic. The small seaport town or lakeside town of Crabapple Cove has a fair bit of sea trade and river-going steamers fetching in supplies and taking out wood products. And there's also a setting off point for the Main Central Standard Gauge Railway with its interchange. Both the steamer and the standard gauge fetch in passengers of tourists who go up into the hills camping, fishing, and just to look around the area in general. Most of the products going out are hardwood products. These are made from elms, birch and other trees which are in the area. There are some pines, but they're logged and mined and milled at a different area. Once they arrive at the ferry, they go down to the station, which has been rebuilt from the original. There's a small yard in front of the station. There are workmen still working on the area. The line has only been opened recently. Some signals have been added which didn't exist on the original Sandy River Railway. Once the passengers aboard the train, they roll off down the hill past the haunted house. The haunted house used to belong to an industrialist who owned a fair few industries in the area. But when the Depression came, he lost all his money, committed suicide, and they say his ghost still wanders the house. The house has been up for sale for 10 years, but still no takers. This is a small tie treatment plant that was rebuilt and is used to do the ties on the railroad that's being rebuilt and replacing the old rotted sleepers and ties. Lunch is presently underway and they're having a game of checkers, which is the local pastime. It's built on a ridge overlooking a small pond from the diverted river, which now feeds down to a watermill. The farmhouse belongs to one of the richer farmers in the area, has a number of cows, and they do dairy products, pigs, and a few other bits and pieces. Passing the tie treatment plant are the scenic joyrides for the rail fans and the other people of interest, being used by one of the shays originally from the Gilpin Tramway, one of the few remaining 2-foot shays left in North America. The old car that the rail fans ride in is an old street car which had its motors removed and its driving end removed and takes up to the high lookout above Crabapple Cove. The steamboat Rainbow is currently tied up at the wharf and just loading up a final few provisions for further up the river. The boat was originally a stern wheel paddle steamer. They removed the old stern wheeler and put in prop shafts from the steam engines. There is talk that the steam engines will be replaced by diesels. Many of the tourists arrive by one of these riverboats, which are the people normally come out through the yard across the interchange and down Main Street. Manufactures bobbins and wooden spools used in the weaving and the garment industry. Being a weekend, the place is closed down, and the platform and access track are used by the local scenic joyride, Shay and its coach. The superintendent of the factory lives at the house adjoining the back end of the factory, which has a nice view looking down towards the lake when there are no trains parked in the way. The passenger train is pulled by a 260 Baldwin, built around 1889, and is one of 3 such locomotives running on the railroad. The cars were originally built around 1905. Leaking Plumbing supplies the area with all its plumbing needs, and they even work on the weekends there. Alongside is DeWitt Depository, and they store incoming goods, general merchandise and shipping. And down past the enclosed water tank. Water tank is enclosed in this area, as anything up to 10 foot of snow can fall through the winter, and this would normally freeze pipes if the water tank was open. The old water wheel supplies power to the mill and to electric generators for the local area. The workmen live in the old caboose alongside the track. The boss's wife is hanging out some washing. It's not a very prosperous area, but things have changed. A lot of their income comes from the chickens and their eggs. As we disappear from the end, I'd like to say that I've enjoyed being at the exhibition. It's always a pleasure to come up to Newcastle for the friendly atmosphere, and I hope to see you again next year.
This layout was originally built by a group of Newcastle tramway enthusiasts which banded together and called themselves the Newcastle Tramway Modelers. It was constructed in 1979 as an attempt to display the character and bring back the memory of the former Newcastle tramway system in miniature form. The operating tram models are constructed to a scale of 1/2 an inch representing a foot, or 1/24th scale full size. The tram cars are built entirely from scratch, as are the buildings and accessories. The motor vehicles are plastic kits, and the little people are proprietary lines. The layout has been displayed at a number of venues and was awarded the Best Australian Prototype Group exhibit at the Australian Model Railway Association's exhibition in Sydney in 1982. It was recently displayed at Park Beach Plaza at Coffs Harbour. The layout resides at Coffs Harbour and is stored at the Dorrigo Steam Railway Museum in an ex-New South Wales Government Railways biscuit van. The exhibition is additionally complemented by O-scale 7mm to the foot tram cars, which are on static display. These tram cars are also entirely scratch-built, and the motor vehicles which are also on that display are to a scale of 1/43, some being built from plastic kits and others are proprietary items. This O-scale tramway ran at this model exhibition last year, and owing to the policy of the organisers, the same layout cannot be exhibited 2 years running. It may be on display here again in the future.